connectivity or some payment connectivity or directly going to net bank. So interoperability between apps is playing a very important role. Security while doing that is playing an important role. So your cloud infrastructure or on-prem infrastructure, whatever you give to your customer, to be secure, scalable, and interoperable. These things have to be kept in mind all the time.
Understood. Since you mentioned interoperability, right, let me divulge a little from the tech side of it. But fundamentally, the idea again is to open up some form of organic or inorganic channels for the organizations to get either the customer onboarded or garner some amount of share of the pie. From that perspective, let's say, where do you see or have you seen in your particular businesses the synergies coming out of the ecosystems? Again, ecosystems have existed for some time. So, for example, in supply chain financing, we have seen the play where there is embedded finance at a lot of places, both on the tech side as well as from a partner side. Right? Fundamentally, other than the classic examples that have existed for some time, what are the other areas that you think are kind of bringing in new synergies in terms of either garnering more growth or, let's say, a greater share of wallet for the customer, for the organization, from collaborating in the ecosystem and creating something which is more of a unified product per se?
So again, I think I'm doing a lot of back and forth between the past and now. And maybe that's the best way to understand some of these things. So if you look at any merchant platform, including a broking platform, and you go back how the payments worked, let's say 10 years ago even, you did not have UPI, did not have a bunch of easily deployable net banking solution. So you had banks beginning to like start net banking, but it was still people being hesitant to have even cards, not just net banking at that point.
Yeah.
And at that point, if any broker is trying to deploy a payments solution, they actually need to do a lot more work to integrate those net banking solutions, those options to make the transfers easy, as opposed to today. So today, there's an entire UPI stack available for me to very easily add it to my app. I don't even have to today redirect users to a third-party app. I can, within my app itself, complete the entire payment journey. The PIN gets entered in this, the transaction speed that you notice as a user, the ease is much more exaggerated now. You're able to very clearly do a bunch of these things. And the entire ecosystem at play, because today I have to do lesser work to deploy so many solutions, reduces the need of me to solve for them independently. So I don't need to solve for payments. I don't need to solve for payments to have a good payment solutions on the app. I can use the ecosystem and how it's driven over the last few years to make life much easier for the users on my platform.
Yes. Mandar?
Yeah, so I'm specifically talking about our world, which is the banking world, and the apps around that. So as banks move towards consumer-friendly apps or consumer to directly come onto the bank apps and use things inside, but there is also a huge, especially in India, in semi-urban and rural, we are seeing assisted apps playing a very important role. So assisted banking, so the consumer would do it on an app of a bank, but there'll be some assistance provided by somebody like a business correspondent or somebody who will be not necessarily the customer coming to a branch, but the bank going to the customer's house. But still, the B2C app would have elements of assistance. So that is what we are seeing as a first step. And then eventually the customer getting the confidence to directly use the B2C app. And eventually we see a trend where the app would go towards AI and AI would assist the customer in taking certain decisions, or if security is compromised, giving certain alerts, or if they have options of choosing multiple applications within the app, they can give a combination of that. So all these things are coming into play, and as the customer matures towards using an app, his need changes. So there is a first-time customer, there is customers using for 6 months, and somebody is used for a year. The same app changes, and the usage changes, and from a completely assisted to completely AI is what the journey would become, is what I feel.
Understood. Mandar, just a follow-up on that, since you mentioned assisted and semi-assisted journey. Fundamentally, when this entire concept of super app started emerging, it was more customer-facing. But a lot of players in the industry have realized that from a completely assisted to a semi-assisted to a assisted journey, right? All of these three journeys in some form or shape coexist, and there is an interchange or a handoff between these journeys at different point of time, right? From your perspective, have you seen in the industry that when people are even trying to develop applications, whether it is a smart app or a super app, there is that play where instead of just looking at the external world to bring things together, there is also an internal lens to figure out where the different handoffs are going to happen, and how has that redefined the application landscape for organization?
So I feel super app is more inside out thinking, because the organization is thinking, okay, I'll bring all consumers to one app, cost of acquisition of the app, cost of running the app, cost of hosting and the technology needed. Versus a consumer is looking, what will I get from the app? And the consumer is typically looking at specialization. So they wouldn't like, as he said, try to do a food order on Zerodha. It's just not possible. But you see, inside a bank app, if a customer wants help, he can have a YouTube link. So
Yeah.
some apps would play some role, but important is specialization. And from that point of view, I feel where the banks are headed typically, and their consumers are headed. So the consumer today is not looking everything from his bank app. He's okay to look at specialized apps, and as the app becomes popular, he's ready to take a risk. If he's introduced to the app by his bank, it makes his journey simpler from security point of view. But I think word of mouth is what helps customers go and try new apps easily.
Understood. Understood. What's the...
I'll actually share the approach that we had at Zerodha over the last 10 years toward sort of building that investing super app ecosystem. I mean, it's not a super app that we have. A bunch of these functionalities that we are solving for or have solved for has happened through some strategic investments that we've done through Rain Matter. That's a VC arm that we have, of Zerodha. So, and a bunch of these investments have shown up on our trading app itself. So, if you want to, let's say, look at the the strategies that you want to deploy and you want to back test it, there's a startup we invested in, Streak, allows you to do that, within our app. If there's, let's say, a bucket of stocks you want to invest in together and you want to track that, that's small case that we invested in.
I was about to come to small. Go on.
If there is, let's say, different F&O strategies you want to analyze, you want to allocate funds based on those strategies, you need some help there, need some assistance, they're sensible. And a bunch of these apps you see on the trading ecosystem, but even outside of that, when you're signing up as a user, there is an e-sign that you're doing. That's Digio and another investee company. So there's a bunch of investments that have happened over the last 10 years, which have all plugged into the platform. Now, we could have gone out there and solved for each one, but instead of solving for each bit with the same team and possibly failing at some of them, why not leverage the passion that people have while building something on their own
Yeah.
So
No, which is why I was asking that earlier question, and I will probably want to delve a bit deeper into the area. We were earlier discussing, let's say, from an ecosystem perspective, we'll want to bring in some place which are kind of correlated or have synergy with the business that the firm is in, right? That seems to be the underlying theme. From that perspective, let's say, as you rightly said, when a small case came in, it was more around a partially educated wealth investor, right? Instead of someone who is gonna do, let's say, trading or instruments, figuring out on their own completely from that perspective, right? Uh, what I will also want to understand when you bring all of these ecosystems together, right? Different functionalities which are plug and play and they some form or other are going to enhance the customer experience. But at the same time, it also blurs the boundaries of the regulatory compliance that you have to adhere to, right? So for example, your primary business might require you to adhere to certain guidelines, but broadly, when you delve into other areas or other functionalities, it also brings you under the ambit of different regulatory bodies, right? So, what are those challenges that you have personally seen or see from a perspective of diversifying or enhancing the customer experience? Will you want to bring in additional functionalities? But the overhead of managing the regulatory impact or the challenges is sometimes too cumbersome. Any thoughts on that?
I actually like I'll take that first. So half the mic. Nice. So I mean the way a bunch of us internally see this is also like looking at regulation as guardrails that are there to help you identify what things you can be doing. So let's say if we were not regulated at all, or we were less lightly regulated, the possible things that our platform could offer would have been everything that we could think of. Today, because regulation is telling us very clearly that these things cannot be on your platform, these things are okay, these things you need these licenses for, it becomes an easier roadmap journey for us. So we know what bits we want to solve for. We know that outside of this, even if we look at things, it doesn't really help us at all because regulation won't allow for us to to delve into it.
Mics have some issue with you, man.
Bad day today.
Yeah,
So,
go on.
it becomes a guardrail to easily work with the ideation journey. Because a lot of times the boundaries that we're talking about, which is where do we draw the line, what do we solve for, what do we not solve for, if somebody else is defining that for you clearly, and that is a metric that the entire industry has to adhere to, it's a level playing field for all. Is easier to ideate what you should be doing. That's
Understood. Understood. Welcome, Anubhab. I'll come to you in a second. if
No
that's
problem at
okay.
all. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Go on, Mandar.
So, in Europe and UK, you can see banks are adopting open banking in a very big way. So banks are expected to expose their APIs to fintech so that the customer can choose any fintech app and the fintech need not wait to be created. They can easily use the open banking platform to give that service to the customer. So when multiple banks, especially in banks now, the many LOS and LMS systems getting integrated to make the lending journey easy. So there, what the primarily the bank's role is to ensure that the KYC is where the data with the bank is, and the bank can give some score, CIBIL, add to the CIBIL score or something like that. And the external apps can get easily integrated into the banking app using some APIs. Yet the final responsibility of security and ensuring the customer data doesn't go beyond remains with the bank. So because of that, there's a responsibility on the bank in terms of what all customer data they can. And now we have very strict data rules in India also. So that has to be catered to while you are trying to give more and more services to the customer to make his life easy.
Understood. Understood. Anubhav, just for context, we were discussing that practically, even though the trends have been there in terms of super apps becoming the key and the boundaries blurring for the ecosystem, what are possibly the regulatory impediments or regulatory challenges or any additional pieces that come into picture when an organization wants to kind of diversify into different areas? Uh, so initial thoughts from you, if any, from a perspective of, let's say, with the new regulations coming in with different areas, right? The data sharing generally happens across organizations if you are gonna have a ecosystem play, right? What are those specific challenges that you think or you have seen that are happening in the industry, especially in terms of the ecosystem play when we look at the broader scenario?
Sure, sorry for being late here. Today I realized that Google Map app is actually a smart app, but Mumbai traffic is much more chaotic than that smart app. So we definitely need a super app which can combine Mumbai traffic as well as the smartness of Google app there, yeah. So I think I'll give you a quick context around that as well. So in India, especially in financial services, if you see, the banks and the insurance companies are heavily regulated to the extent that we can't take anything as a revenue stream which is not related to the, our main core business. Like in insurance, I can't have anything which is non-premium revenue to be recognized. So when we started building this app called here last year, that's what the challenges we had, right? We can't have a new revenue stream coming here, which means that on day one, a fintech can come and say DAU, MAU are my top targets, but
Yeah.
for me, it can't be. Right? For me to put up a logo of any partner is not that easy versus a fintech, right?
Yeah.
So I think if you see the regulatory point of view, it is obviously a little bit tilted toward fintech because they can do more innovations. We are incumbents, so to say. And that's why I think that's where the balancing act comes in.
Yeah.
But I think if you ask me from a regulatory point of view, I think rightfully so, the regulated entity like banks and insurance companies are much averse to do that, right? And that's why you see Pays app, being an app, running in a certain manner. You see here, from HDFC Ergo being run in a separate way versus, let's say, a Cred, right, who has
Understood.
gone in a very different way altogether. So I think it's a very, very good blurred line right now. And I think those paths will converge over a period of time, very, very early days. Like insurance is around 20 years old in India, and now it's opening up in the last 2 to 3 years. So that's what my context, yeah.
One quick follow-up, Anubhab, from a perspective of, let's say, if I look at prima facie at the insurance industry itself, right? You will have some partnerships where it is just for the issuance of the policy for different products, right? Then you will have sachet products which are bundled, which will go together directly with, for example, travel. The checkbox product goes directly along with any of the bookings anywhere. And then you have larger, deeper relationships, for example, something like a health insurance, where some amount of knowledge is required to counsel the customers to avoid mis-selling, to educate all of those, right? And then there is the cycle piece in terms of not just selling, let's say, from a servicing perspective, either it is claim or endorsements, all of that, right? Now, from the perspective of, let's say, since you mentioned fintechs, right? A lot of these partnerships have delved into different areas of this life cycle. What generally will happen is you will have to figure out a way to orchestrate the entire process as well as the sharing of the information, right? Specifically from insurance, have you, or from, let's say, from an IIDA perspective, or what is it that you have seen that in terms of the guardrails, where exactly, how you draw the line, or what are the regulatory challenges in that scenario? If you
Yeah, so what I'll do is, since around, I can see a clock ticking in front of me, a lot of people here can't. And since, I missed the early part, so I have to do, what I came here as well for. So I wanted to introduce an app called Here, which we launched last year. And as you rightfully said that, what we did as a challenge, we had a challenge was that we can't interact with our customers a lot, right? Because customers come and buy a policy and renew and they're shopping. So from our point of view, we are not relevant in their lives, right? And that's where last year around January, we took a mandate, to us as a management team, that market share is a problem we want to solve for, but we want to solve a problem of mind share. And that's where we started changing the entire dynamics, and we started thinking as an insurance company, is DAU and MAU can also be a metrics which we track. The entire thesis was that if people engage with us more, they will end up, having better experience with us, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we launched Here as an app last year, and in around very, very short span of time, we have seen some 6 million downloads. We were trending on Play Store. And 6 million downloads are not just my customers. Around 20% of the users are actually non-HDFC Ergo customers. They come, interact with the app. The app is essentially a super app, I would call.
Understood.
And when we started building a super app, it was sort of an abuse term because people talk that it works, it doesn't work. So what we did was we did two things there. We did health as an ecosystem in the beginning. We looked at car or mobility as an ecosystem. And what we said was, what are the problems which are not solved by the startups, which we can solve? And what are the things which people have solved for where we can partner? So imagine we as a health company has maximum data about which hospital, which injury will take how much amount, right? We opened that data up, right? And that became the proprietary thing. So if you have to go to an X hospital and do a knee surgery, I have the data, I opened it up in front of customers, it became a hit. We went to the customers and said that you have taken claim for us, but you have gone through a disease as well. Is there a possibility to build a peer-to-peer network or a community where people who have gone through a surgery can share their experiences with someone who is going to go through?
Understood.
So these are the things which started building there. We built, practically the first car app page, which eventually a couple of startups copied, where you can just enter the detail of your car, and you will see the entire page about entire details. We were very happy. Our UI UX also was copied by that startup, so it was a proud moment for us, and we had a good banter with the founder of that startup as well, and that became a hit. Eventually, we launched Pet as an ecosystem, and that was a great thing. Again, we're probably India's largest pet app today, and nobody knows about it, but the pet community knows. Yeah. Around 80,000 pet owners are there on our app right now, and they're using it. We did not even had a pet insurance product before that. And that was, I think, a remarkable part of the way here was built over a period of time. Again, this became a London Business School case study. Imagine a corporate, a company like HDFC Ergo, which has been in existence for around 2 decades now. We built something, and that is something which got copied, by the startups, and, we sort of inspired them. And a London Business School, kind of a B school, came up and wrote a case study where they tell the global world now how an incumbent, a player like HDFC Ergo has built a new age app. So I think that was something which I was very passionate to share today when I saw Super App as a topic. In fact, I have a 90 seconds video. Just before we finish, maybe if we can quickly play that video. Is that okay, Anshika? Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Yeah. So I already bribed her. So if we can just quickly play that video, Nitin, if you just give a good context, to the audience about, what we have built. Can we have the AV, please?
Anshika, you will probably have to help me out with that.
Divya? Oh yeah, this is the one. So this is still April last year. On the app, what was happening. So we have a breathing exercise, as a feature on the app. On an average, every car added on here has an active challan. 18,000 people are reversing their diabetes on here app as we speak. 67% are dog owners and 37% are cat owners, so we know who is winning the battle. The most expensive car on here is Porsche. I can't even spell the next thing. 600 plus patients have done the P2P, as just I spoke about. There is one car in Lucknow which has got 4.5 lakh challan active on the car. It's a BMI, people check it daily as if it's a stock price. 52% of our vehicle without a valid POC in the country today, according to us. Bruno and Momo, I'm not sure how many of us have a Bruno as a dog name. Some 38,000 users have checked the prices before they enter a hospital. 48% two-wheeler are riding without insurance. That's a business opportunity. So that's what here is essentially. I thought in a very quick elevator pitch, I'll show about what the team has built. I'm just representing them here in the session of Super App. Yeah.
Thanks, Anubhab. Just keeping in a check on the end before Anshika kind of pulls me down from the stage. Probably 30 seconds of closing comments from all of you, and then we can close out this session.
Again, I'll go back to the topic of discussion, which is what is the right way to go about things? What do you build? Do you build a smart app? Do you build a super app? And a bunch of times, even if you look at a super app, starts out as a one-directional solving for one use case, does that really well, and then tries to solve for other things. So anybody here trying to figure what approach to take to get the first set of users, to get like people who want to be using their platform. I mean, maybe that's why we're doing this. Let's pick the solve one use case first, do it really well, and then think about the other problem.
Understood. Mandar?
How HDFC Ergo's Here app combined their customers and their ecosystem to create a super app. So something unique Sarvatra is also doing, where being a UPI first platform, then 700 banks in India use our platform. We are now creating Sarvatra rewards. We will allow rewards on UPI for the first time. And this is how our community of semi-urban rural merchants, large merchants, and the customers of the 700 banks will come together. And this is a great journey to learn, and I'm a user of Here.
Thank you so much.
Seen it help me as a. So definitely there is a scope for corporate to move from just being a service provider at a back end to being a super app and helping the ecosystem come into the super app. And I think one of the biggest examples of success for that is Zerodha.
Understood. Of any
I think I
closing-
yield my time. Chika would really kill us. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Anubhab. Thanks, Mohit. Thanks, Mandar. Yeah. Thanks all for your time.
Thanks for the great moderation that you did.
Pleasure, man.
Hope you all enjoyed the session.